Alright, in this video I will walk through how to answer these 3 questions using your calculator. So you should see the calculator screen over here. I've already entered this equation in for y1. I'll read the question. It says, use math 8 on the y equals screen on your calculator to determine each of the following. To receive full credit, you must summarize what you've done on your calculator. So basically, I'm given this equation right here. I want to find the slope of it at x equals 5, at x equals 10, and then I want to find the values, it could be more than one, of x in that interval. So the interval up here is 0 to 20. I want to find the values for which the slope is equal to 1. So if it was just the first 2 questions, I don't know if I'd bother putting it in the y equals screen, but since the third question, you'll see it's easiest to graph it. I'm using the y equals screen, and I think you'll see why that helps. So, I am going to use nDerive. So, I even say right here how to do it. We're going to hit Math. Notice 8 is nDerive. So I'm going to select 8. I want to derive with respect to x. And I want to pull this equation up. So notice it's y1. So I'm going to hit alpha trace. That's the shortcut. See, I get my y1 right there. So I can just select that, hit enter. And then I'm going to evaluate it at all x values. My window, normally I have a zoom 6 here. But you should see that my window goes from 0 to 20 on the interval that I care about for this problem is 0 to 20. So I'm going to make my window do that same interval on the x-axis. So I can count by ones, -10 to 10. I feel like that's a good way to start. If I need to adjust it, I can. So now I'm going to hit graph. And there's my function. I'm actually going to stop it. I want to show you a trick. I can hit the on button. It'll totally stop everything. Because I want to go back in my y equals screen, and I want to turn this graph off. So I have less that I'm looking at. At this point, it's just going to graph the derivative for me. So we'll go back to graph. Here it comes. That red graph is y2, and it is the graph of my derivative. Takes a little bit of time to graph it because it's actually calculating the derivative at each of those little spots. So there we go. So what is the slope of the graph at x equals 5? I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this. The first way is to hit second and then calc. And then notice I got a lot of options here. I'm going to choose value. So I'm going to take value. And then I'm going to do it at x equals 5. So I hit enter like that, and enter. And boom, it tells me the height of this thing at 5. That is 2.238 if I'm rounding the way the AP would typically want me to. So what I'm going to write right here in part A is ddx, just like this, of, I'm not going to write y1, I'm going to write f, because that's what they give me here. Evaluated at, and then I'm going to write, I'm just going to put a 5 down at the bottom of this bar. That's a notation that we've talked about. And then, back to that spot, yep. And then I'm going to write equals this decimal to, or this thing to 3 decimals. And then I'll be done with that problem A. So the other way to do that, if you're not on the graphing calculator, is to go alpha from the main screen. So I quit out of there. I'm on the main screen. Alpha trace y1, and then I can write of, just like I use function notation, 5, enter. And, oh, sorry. What did I do wrong there? Anyone? Can you figure out what I did wrong? I did this thing at 5, so I want to evaluate this guy at 5. So let's go. I want to do, clear it, alpha trace, the second one, y2, because that's my derivative, at 5 like that, enter. Boom. So that's my answer for A. Now, for B, I can actually pull up this entry and just change the 5 to a 10. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to scroll up until that's highlighted and hit enter. It's going to pull it up. And then I'm going to type 10, close parentheses, enter. Boom. 1.242. Use the same notation for this, but right equals 1.242. So the last question we're going to answer here is for what values of x in the interval is a slope equal to 1? So I can use my calculator to find when things are equal. All I have to do is graph them, find the intersect. So come down to y3. I know that y2 is the slope of f of x at whatever x values it's plotting at. I want to know when this guy is equal to 1. So what I'm going to do is graph y3 as 1. It'll graph it in black. We'll hit graph. I've already got my window set up the way I wanted to, from 0 to 20 on the axis. And see, the red graph and the black graph hit each other right there. They also hit each other right there. So what I want to do is find those x values for which those guys hit each other, and then those are the answer to this question when the slope, the red graph, is equal to 1, the black graph. So to do that, I hit second, go into calc, let's calculate, do intersect, that's option 5, and notice first curve, I can see, since I have the color one, that it's the red curve, right? So, and it tells me up here, y2 nDerive, I know that's my derivative. Hit enter. Then look at automatically defaults down to the next one, y1 equals 1, enter. And now, you can scroll if you want, but that takes more time. If I look over here, I can see that x, so it's asking me for a guess. I can see that x value is close to 1, so I can just hit the number 1 and enter, and it'll put a guess in as 1. It's calculating it right now. It takes some time to figure it out. This is a graph for which it would be a lot more work otherwise, I think. So I get 0.670. So that's the first answer here. To get the next one, I'm going to go second calc. Intersect is 5. Look at that. I don't know. It's like somewhere in the middle of the graph. It might be 10. So I'm going to select y2 is the red one. y3, next curve is the black one. And then my guess, I'm just going to type in 10, because that's like halfway through this interval. I know it'll go to this one instead of that one. Hit enter. Thinking. Boom. 11.078 is how I'm going to round that. So I get 2 answers for this, that 0.06 thing, and then this 11 point whatever number here. And hopefully that helps doing this problem.